Hey everyone, Rob here from Gunfather Milsim. Today we're going to have part 3 of the CQB series in which we're going to talk about OODA Loops. Part 1 I talked about the theory of clearing from the door. Part 2 I just demonstrated it. And this part's a little bit different. It's just going to be more about application and a little bit of theory. So to be clear, if all you do is just use cover, clear from the door, and you don't really pick up any of this, all this OODA loop stuff goes over your head, you're still going to do fine. You're still going to do great. You're still going to get killed every once in a while, but that's the breaks. And by killed, I'm talking about airsoft context. You know, you get hit and you got to walk back to respawn. But if you can really embrace and understand some of these concepts with OODA loops, it's going to really increase your survivability and really increase your ability to engage and take out targets. All right. So what are OODA loops? OODA is a acronym, okay? It stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. Basically, this was created, this concept, by a Air Force colonel and military strategist named John Boyd, okay? So Colonel John Boyd was a fighter pilot in Korea, and he basically developed this way for pilots to make decisions in the middle of a dogfight. And when evaluating how different pilots make decisions and those who win versus those who don't win, he came up with this concept of OODA loops. And basically, it's a way to understand how people make decisions when they're in a conflict situation. It's been applied obviously to dogfighting. It's been applied to combat fighting and even stuff like business and finance. This concept applies across many different levels. If you're interested, just do a Google search for John Boyd OODA loops. You'll learn all about him. He's really kind of a fascinating character in history. So what are OODA loops precisely? So basically, when you're in any sort of conflict situation, and we're going to stick obviously to airsoft concept, this is how we got to make our decision. Every decision we make, every target we engage, we have to go through all 4 of these steps in order to successfully engage a target. If we can get through this process faster than our opponent, or if our opponent keeps getting stuck at one of these stages and we can move and stay ahead of him in the loop, we're going to be successful. Okay? So I'll explain this more further so it makes a little more sense. I'll give you an example. Observe is pretty common sense. I gotta observe things before I can do anything. I gotta see my target or see whatever. So I'm gonna have to see where they're at before we can even do anything. Okay. Orient's the big one. Okay. So orientation is the analysis and synthesis of data from one's own mental perspective. Now this is kind of the one where you're gonna spend the most time. It's basically you trying to interpret what you're seeing and put all the math, put it all together into how you're going to engage a target. Decide speaks for itself. Am I going to shoot this guy or not? Is now the right time? Is he even on the right team? My team, other team, whatever. You got to make the decision. And finally, the quickest and easiest one, act. You're actually going to take the action and pull the trigger. Now, all this seems pretty straightforward and kind of redundant. And you're probably thinking, Rob, what does it matter how I make decisions when I'm out here playing airsoft and shooting people? Well, I'm going to explain it to you with kind of a classic example that I use in when I'm teaching recruits and law enforcement. A very common problem we have when we're clearing buildings is you'll have closets, right? And you'll have a closed closet door. And inside that closet, theoretically, you're going to have a bad guy. And the traditional solution to this problem is maddening. It's idiotic, but everybody does it. And if you understand OODA loops, you can really understand why it's so stupid the way people do this thing. Okay, so here we'll just put this real easy. So we're going to talk about different perspectives here. Okay, so here's my closet, my really poorly drawn closet. Here's my closet door. I got a green guy and a blue guy. Now my green guy is going to be my bad guy who's hiding inside that closet. And my blue is going to be my good guy who's just outside the closet door. Okay? Now traditionally, the way people kind of teach this is they have two officers, right? And one officer goes up and they grab the door and they look at the other officer who's standing in front of the door and they go, "You ready?" And they go, "Yeah, they're ready." And they open the door, and then this guy who's just ready to engage whatever's in the closet, that's how they do it. And when you do that against someone, this guy, this green guy in here, who is a prepared defender, who's decided that he's going to shoot whatever opens that door, this guy's going to lose every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And you might wonder why. Man, well, it seems almost like a 50-50 to me, Rob. I'm just outside looking in. But the problem is, if you don't take into consideration OODA loops, you don't realize how absolutely stupid this technique is and how screwed this guy is. And let me show it to you more explained. So in this particular scenario, this guy here, this green, the bad guy inside the closet, he's a bad guy. He's armed with a gun. He's sitting in the closet. He knows some people are in the house. And he's sitting there pointing his gun at the closed door. And he's decided that no matter who opens this door, he's going to pull the trigger. Okay? So let's add up where he's at in the OODA loop. Okay? So he's observing the door. He knows the door is there. Easy day. Okay? He's oriented towards the threat. He's oriented towards the door. Doesn't really have much to think about here. Doesn't have much to synthesize. He's basically going to wait till the door opens and he's going to shoot. He's already made the decision to shoot. Okay? That one's a freebie too. He's decided no matter what opens that door, I'm going to shoot. And finally, all that's left for him to do is act. So he hasn't fired yet, but that's basically all he's got to do is wait for that door open and then he's going to take his action. On the other hand, okay, our good guy in the blue on the outside, when the door opens, he doesn't know if there's anybody in there or not. So he's got to observe, hey, there's a guy in there. So he hasn't even done that yet. He's got to do this. He's got to orient towards that threat. He's got to see, is that a threat? Is it not? Is it armed? Is it not? Is it a good guy? Is it a bad guy? Is it a shoot target? A no shoot target? He's got to do all that orientation. Then he's got to decide whether or not he's going to shoot. And then finally, way at the bottom, he's got to take that shot. So as you can see, the bad guy in the closet is way ahead. He's all the way out on here. He's right at act. Okay? And our good guy has to go through this whole process before he can get here. And that's why he's going to lose every day of the week and twice on Sunday when we pull this you open the door and deal with what's in there. Now I'm going to show you my solution. This solution kind of helps explain OODA loops, and it helps explain how you can kind of turn the tide against this guy using OODA loops to your advantage instead of against you. So instead of having one guy come here and open the door and this guy reacting to it, we're going to change the plan. This guy's going to go off to the side of the door and another person's going to open the door. And there's going to be nothing there. There's not going to be anybody standing in front of the door waiting for this bad guy. Okay? Now when we open that door and this guy shoots out into the hall with the empty hallway, that tells our good guys three things. One, there's somebody in there. Two, that he's armed. And three, that he's got malicious intent. And that's how we turn this around. Okay? So now our good guy has a pretty good idea. Hey, there's somebody in there and he's armed. So we essentially observed him. He's in a closet. There's nowhere really for him to go. Two, we're oriented towards the threat. We understand what's going on. Hey, he's armed. He's got malicious intent. Bad guy in there. Three, kind of made the decision. Let's say, hey, we're going to shoot him back, or hey, we're going to get the hell out of here, or call in a canine or whatever. For the purpose of this, we're just going to say, hey, we've decided that we're going to shoot this guy who just took some shots at us. Now that's all that's left is for the officers to return fire and act. Meanwhile, let's talk about the bad guy's perspective. The door just opened. He fired. He expected that somebody be there to get shot at. He fired his shots and there was nothing there. So now he's got to start all the way over and observe. He's like, what the hell? What's going on now? So he realizes somebody opened the door, but doesn't know where they're at, left, right, wherever. He doesn't know if they're still there. So he's got to start all the way back over and observe. And then as the officer steps in the line, now he can orient towards the officer. Now he's going to make the decision to shoot. Now he's going to act. So now he's all the way back here again. He's got to go through all these steps. So this time, let's say the officer wide open. Now this officer can pie in and engage that threat and take him out. because he's put himself way ahead on the OODA loop. That's how you can use OODA loops to your advantage. And I like this example because it kind of really easily explains how to turn the tide of an OODA loop into your advantage, where originally it's at your disadvantage. So another quick example would be when you're in a 50-50 gunfight. So here's a piece of cover, and this guy's got a couple pieces of cover. Okay, and here's one guy. Here's the other guy. And these two are shooting at each other. Okay. Now, as long as, you know, and we've all played this game where we're you know, I'm going to peek out from my cover and you're going to peek out and we're both going to shoot back and forth. This is what we call 50-50 gunfight. I've covered these before. These are dumb. You don't want to get in 50-50 gunfights because half the time you win, half the time you lose. We can use OODA loops to our advantage, though, if we have another way, another location to go to or whatever, where we can defeat this guy. But we got to change the game a little bit. So basically what I would do if I was trying to win this from an OODA loop perspective, I would suppressively shoot this guy, suppressive fire, so he moves out of the way so he can no longer observe me, and I'm going to move over here and I'm going to stop shooting. Now this guy peeks back out. Now this guy's frame of reference is that I am still down here. Okay? Obviously in this scenario I'm pretending I'm this guy down here. His frame of reference is I am still down here. Okay? That's an advantage. Because he's observed, last place he observed you was down here. He's oriented towards a threat down here. He's decided to shoot the guy down here, and he's actively engaging shooting this guy down here. You, on the other hand, know exactly where he is, and you know the reality of what's going on. When you do pop out from this area instead of this area, now he's got to observe, oh crap, he's over here now. He's got to reorient towards you. He's got to go, is that a new guy? Is that the same guy? And now he's got to decide, okay, I'm going to shoot that guy in the act. Now that's obviously not a very big change in perception for him to figure out you're here or here, but it's not going to take much because you're going to be ahead of him. When he gets stuck on orienting to that new threat, that new location that you're at, you're already way ahead of him. You're already down an act because you're already shooting him. While he's trying to figure out where you're at, oh crap, he's over here, you're already engaging him. Okay? And that's how you can use that OODA loop to your advantage. Now, how does all this relate to CQB and clearing from the door versus just rushing into rooms? As I explained in the first video, when you got a prepared defender in a room and he's watching that door, he doesn't really have much to observe. It's a relatively small area, and especially if he's already decided I'm going to shoot whatever comes in through that door, you as the good guy stacking up on the outside and rushing that room as you would traditionally with the stack and flow method or whatever you want to call it, you're going to get wiped out because you got to step in that room, you got to observe the entire room. If you see a target or a good guy, bad guy, whatever, you have to basically assess that person. Are they armed? Are they not armed? Are they a threat to me? Are they not a threat? And decide how you're going to deal with them before you take any action. Meanwhile, the bad guy in the room has already made the decision to shoot. There's no way rushing into a room like that against a prepared defender that you're going to win. By OODA loops, you're going to be way behind and you are going to lose every day of the week and twice on Sunday. As opposed to clearing from the door where you're observing in small little bits, and it's much easier for you to deal with those threats as you see them because you're not taking in as much data all at once. This is just kind of barely touching the surface on OODA loops, and if you I'll post up a picture here of some of John Boyd's diagrams. They're very complicated. It's not just 4 steps like I have here. There's lots of things going back to the beginning, and he basically tries to explain how you're constantly going through this cycle and you're constantly trying to disrupt your enemy's cycle while you yourself take shortcuts to get out ahead of it, to get ahead of their cycle, and therefore your decision-making process is faster, and therefore you're always engaging them. When you use this effectively against an opponent, they're going to feel as if they never know where you're at. You're always going to be surprising them. You're always going to be striking at them from an area that they don't expect to get struck from. And we've all been there. We've all been ambushed. If you can effectively learn how to use OODA loops when you play in your Airsoft, Milsim, whatever, you're going to be a lot more effective. And the main way you do it is try to think what your opponent sees when they're looking at you what's the last thing they saw, where are they at in their mindset and how they're engaging you, and try not to be predictable, try not to do the thing that they expect, or try not to be that 50-50 target just popping out. You're going to want to try to get ahead of their decision-making process by confusing them, or by changing position, or throwing in some sort of distraction or whatever. Anything you can do to get them to have to reobserve and reorient in a gunfight is going to help you get ahead of them and engage them faster than they're going to engage you. Real quick video, not sure how else to describe it other than that. Please, if you're really interested in this, look into OODA Loops more. There's a lot here, and it really is the difference between a good player and a great player, is their ability to effectively use OODA Loops and these concepts. And the examples I gave you are like the bare minimum. This obviously applies to all matter of human interaction, human conflict, and all sorts of different things. All right. So questions, comments, whatever, throw them in the comments below, and we can have a discussion about it. And just a quick note, I've noticed that I'm picking up a lot of subs lately, and I really appreciate it. I think I'm up to like 670 as the time I'm making this video, and I was at 500 just a few months ago. So I really appreciate you guys jumping on the channel. And if you say anything in the comments, I see them all for the most part, and I try to get in there when I can and have a conversation. So thanks for watching, guys.